Greetings, fellow human beings. I hope you are doing great. If you're new to the channel, thank you for tuning in. My name is Guillaume. I'm a French amateur photographer living here in Osaka City. With Christmas being around the corner, I thought I would offer you not less than 17 tips for street photography. Some of them you might already know, and some hopefully new to you. In any case, I will show examples for each tip to illustrate the point. Alright, without further ado, let's jump in this street photography session. First tip on the list, foreground elements. With this example here, you can see that by adding foreground elements to your composition, we'll add depth to the picture as well as incorporating elements to tell the story. In this case, branches and foliage, indicating that there is nature around the main subject. In this second example, you can see that the foreground elements are more prominent, so it's up to you to play with them in your composition to convey the story you want to tell. The second tip on the list is play with point of view. Here you can see that instead of showing the subjects directly, I focused on the phone to give the point of view of the person who takes the picture. So you can play around with your composition to show the subject indirectly. This will add depth also and interest to the picture. I don't wanna make a fuss. So here we are at Yakasa Jinja, the famous, and there are 99% tourists and maybe just 10% worshippers, and it's a must visit when you come to Osaka. I find it interesting to shoot it from here. Third tip on the list, play with framing. Find one or more elements to frame your subject. This will help focus on it as well as playing with frame in the frame type of picture. Tip number 4, play with different angles. Here you can see that I kneel to the ground to show the subject from a lower perspective. This will emphasize the subject's presence by adding a dramatic dominant position. Tip number 5. Make the main subject be the background. Once you establish the main subject with a few prior shots, why not making it the background? In this particular example, it works very well because we have the eye of the demon looking angrily at the secondary subject. Tip number 6. Trigger curiosity with mystery. Here you can see that I focus on a single part of the main subject and I frame it with a foreground element. This creates a mystery and triggers the curiosity of the viewer. By the way, this also shows that you can combine different tips of this list to compose your shot. Tips number 7. Play with the rule of thirds. On this picture, you can see that I put the eye of the demon on the upper right intersection of the rule of third. This creates a more compelling picture. Okay, so I just shot that girl because of the coat and the bag. Look at how bright it is this morning. Tips number 8. Look for colors. This one is an obvious. Look around for colors, especially popping ones. red, orange, yellows, those will attract the look of the viewer. So, that is an interesting subject with some straight lines around. Again, it's too bright, but anyway, that's the shot I got. Tip number 9, Abstractive Subjects. Look for obstructive elements to partially block your subject. This will create a less obvious composition as well as adding mystery and forcing your viewer to look through for the main subject. Okay, I'm falling back into my habits. I see a pattern and I wait for a subject to get in. Tips number 10. Seek geometry. Especially in urban environments, you will find shapes. So try to incorporate them in your shot. Here, what I like about this picture is that we have actually 3 subjects, each on a different layer. Obviously, you have the lady walking in the circle, then you have me in the reflection of the window as a secondary subject, then you have a third subject behind me in the reflection of the circle. So here I actually play with geometry as well as layers. Geometrical shapes make for interesting framing in your shot. So again, too bright, but I was about to cross the street, you cannot see anything. There is the zebra pattern there, and I noticed the fence here, and I thought about layering different patterns. That's the idea. Tips number 11. Play with layers and patterns. Here you can see that there is 2 to 3 layers as well as 2 to 3 patterns. The fence has a shadowy foreground, the subject on the middle ground, and the zebra crossing in the background. And as a bonus, the main subject on the middle ground is wearing a striped top, such complementing the zebra pattern. So again, to give depth and interest to your picture, play with layers and patterns. I'm in this complete random street, left the bike over there, and look at this mess. This is one side of Japan we don't really know. You also have those very dirty places, especially in some areas in Osaka. So I wish I had a subject like maybe a cat sitting there, or even a crow. There are a lot of crows. And I guess that's gonna be my subject here. Tips number 12. Singularity. Look for elements out of place. Here you can see that among the chaotic mess there is a touch of softness. These fluffy elements create an interesting contrast in the composition. So look for singularity, for element out of place that creates an interesting contrast. This street is really interesting to play with, and those 2 subjects are also interesting. Tips number 13. Guidelines. Use guidelines to lead the viewer to your subject. They can also make an interesting framing. On this picture, the walls are my 2 guidelines. There is a corridor of light right here, and the sun over there. And I wish that student would walk in that ray of light. So I'm waiting, and hopefully I can get something, whether it's her or another subject. Let's see. Tips 14. Play with lights and shadows. Here is a set of images showing how to play with light and shadows. You have the triangle of light created by the late afternoon sun, in which I frame the subject. Actually here we can also see a geometrical shape, that triangle of light, and we can see an interesting contrast of color with the lady dressed in white standing in the light, while the rest of the picture is in the shadow. Tips number 15. Lower your point of view. Just like I showed earlier in this video, don't always take pictures at your eye level. Pictures showed from a lower point of view are more interesting because this is not a point of view we are used to. Alright, so I'm at... sorry for the fast panning. I'm at Stenergy here. Oops, doesn't focus, whatever. And that's gonna be a very... what's the word? Abstract picture, because I'm interested with the garage door over there and framed by the leaves, yellow leaves. I wish a subject come in the frame, but I'm not so sure because it's pretty quiet street here. So I don't want to wait long. I work later, so let's see. Tips number 16, juxtaposition. Again, playing with layers, you can juxtapose very different subjects to create an interesting composition. In this example here, we have the somewhat messy yellow leaves and the perfect line of the garage door. And again, we have popping colors. Again here, another abstract composition, I guess. Don't know if you guys can see, but the two buildings are colorful. Pink and white here, and blue and is that pink over there? And I also like the shadow of the tree. Number 17, look for perspectives. Last on this list, look for perspective to create an interesting composition. Whether it's a building, a bridge, a road, something long or big enough to create this effect of perspective. Usually the perspective aspect is here to emphasize the size or the wideness of your subject. There you have it, guys, 7 tips for street photography. Of course there are more, but already if you start to implement these tips in your photo work, I'm sure you will see some improvement. Some of them are quite obvious, but others are less known. So start experimenting with them and don't forget that you can mix them up. So have fun implementing them in your next street photography session. Now that's it for me, guys. I hope that you find that video interesting. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a happy holidays with your family. And until next time, enjoy the ride and spread the love.